There have been multiple credible sources claiming that 2023 is going to be a huge year for the disclosure process. People are saying things like we'll get disclosure or we'll get much, much further progress than we already have. Even Luis Elizondo has publicly stated in response to this tweet, and I quote, "Thank you for your work on this topic. You said during ATIP that it was very difficult to get a foot in the door when asked about the DOE, Department of Energy, and their UFO data. Could you expand on that at all? Thank you." Elizondo responds, "We're banging on those doors right now. 2023 should be a good year. Good question and attention to detail. Thank you. We have 223 days left in this year, so the question is begged. What happens if all the hype that has been generated by various credible people within the UFO field ends up falling flat? My goal with this video is to share with you what some of the more prominent people in this field have been saying about the year 2023. But let's not get it twisted. The so-called skeptics have been making their own proclamations about the UFO topic. They may want you to believe that it's only the silly UFO believers that have been doing so, but that could not be further from the truth. Their mantra of nothing to see here and nothing will happen this year has been in full force. In fact, Mick West, the world's most influential UFO skeptic, published an article on April 29th in the New York Post titled, "How Science and Politics Are Bringing an End to Ufology." Are they bringing an end to ufology? Seems to me it's quite the opposite. Here's a quote from the article. "Suggests to scientists that they study UFOs and they're likely to burst out laughing. That's actually far less true now than it used to be, but that sentiment is the essential tone of his article to me." Here's a segment much further into the article. Quote, "And so the field of ufology could very likely wither away as people, the media, the military, and politicians become disillusioned and lose interest. Because unless the evidence emerges soon, ufology is dead." Let's be honest here. Mick West and many skeptics are essentially just making the converse prediction of believers, that ufology will implode or be severely compromised as opposed to having the topic escalate. Unless some of them just think we're never ever going to go back to pre-December 16th, 2017, that New York Times article, UFO coverage and seriousness. But how would that even work if there's nothing to this topic? That makes zero sense. It would have to implode eventually, wouldn't it? Since we're on the topic, I'll give my own prediction, which is ultimately only just an opinion. And in fairness to the skeptics, they are just expressing their opinions as well. I think the UFO topic will escalate this year in the sense that it will be covered even more in the mainstream media. Science will become more interested in it, and the UFO topic will be taken even more seriously by the US government. Will we get disclosure this year, as in full-on confirmation of a non-human intelligence engaging our planet? I don't know, but I think it's plausible. But enough of what I think. Let's dive right into a rapid-fire presentation of what people are saying that would be considered quote-unquote UFO believers.
Just as we start to close out, I want to ask now, you must have had, yourself and James, private conversations with past guests at these conferences, and I'm not one that's going to ask you to name names and what was said, but if you're comfortable, feel free to name names, you know, what Chris Mellon may have said, what he thinks is going on. But what are those conversations like? And I wonder, from a private point of view, how are those guests giving you an indication how they think things are playing out? The UFO conversation, you're talking to Gary Nolan, Leslie Kane, Ralph Blumenthal, Chris Mellon, and anyone else at those conferences. Mm-hmm. How are you packaging all that together, what's being said, as to how things are going for the UFO conversation?
It's an incredibly exciting time. I mean, from what I know and from what I hear from the people that you just mentioned and others, you know, it's in organizing these events, you're absolutely right that it's really put me and James in a very unique position in terms of the kind of information that we hear. I was used to that to a degree before with the experiencer group and some of the people that flowed through that community as well. Yeah. But it's just taken off even more in an expanded way with these conferences. And it's impossible to ignore that there are so many groups, individuals, and factions that have so many kind of secret plays happening right now, like towards like what's happening this year, this spring, this summer, this fall. And from what I hear, if any two of these situations go down the way that they're planned, it's going to be a real paradigm shift for the public conversation. And there's the possibility for a lot more. So, it's interesting because as opposed to, say, 5 or 10 years ago, I do understand some of the secrecy from the researcher's perspective, from the inside of the researcher's perspective, from inside of our community. A lot of people, they get frustrated because online they'll not get an answer from the Pentagon or something like that, the DOD or whatever, and then they'll go to somebody like Ralph Blumenthal or whatever and ask him, and maybe not, and get more of an answer, but there'll be a point where things start to go vague or where he doesn't want to speak on the record or something like that. And that's completely understandable. The more that I'm involved in with these situations and speaking with these people relatively frequently, it's kind of like a football game. And you don't ask like a football coach before the Super Bowl, like, so what are the plays that you're going to be doing, in a couple hours here, because the other side listens. There are a lot of people that want to block the progress that's been happening these last 5 years, 5.5 years almost, since the December 2017 New York Times article. That was a big game changer. And ever since then, it's like we've been playing a different game than before. And a lot of people want to make sure that they keep their plays kind of on the quiet, on the DL, and until some of these situations come to light. Yeah, it's an exciting time though. There are there are people that are going to be going public over the course of the next months. There are all sorts of wild situations, possibly in DC, possibly in New York, that are going to be coming up. And I think that 2023, like no BS, like I kind of hate it when people talk like this, but I really think that this is going to be the biggest paradigm shift year since 2017.
Now, where are we going to be in, let's say, 6 months into the summer? I do think that you're going to see some information coming from those on the inside who have decided to step forward.
I have been hearing the exact same thing, and I have very high confidence that will be the case. And then I'm going to ask you one last question. Do you think...
And that will change things. That will change things.
100%.
How do they feel with you, talking about some of the things they tell you publicly?
They're encouraging me to, because what it's doing is it's bringing other people forward. I wish I could tell you everything I know right now.
Me too.
I mean, believe me.
I can edit it up.
In a few months' time, you'll be looking back at this interview and you'll be going, Roscoe, what you knew. There's stuff coming down the track, and I think it's going to resolve this issue once and for all. I really do.
Well,
the house of cards is falling, baby. Or is it? So those 3 clips were from That UFO Podcast, The Good Trouble Show, and Witness Citizen. And I will leave links to those full episodes in the description below. There are other videos that I could share with other people relaying information about what's prognosticated. But I think you got the gist. I don't want to overdo it. But right now, going forward, after I subtly burped, we're going to go into rapid fire of people's tweets prognosticating about big things happening in 2023. From Project Unity, I have it on good authority that the CIA and USAF legacy program history relating to retrieved off-world vehicles and their attempts to reverse engineer them will become part of the discourse in an official capacity this year. From Richard Butt, shout out to Ross Coulthart for providing additional confirmation of forthcoming events, months, not years. From Science Bob McGuire, well, according to what I know, we don't have to wait long to find out if Nolan, that's Gary Nolan, Dr. Gary Nolan of Stanford, is misleading us, or whether all these skeptics are wrong. And here's an interesting analysis on this whole situation by Danny Silva. It's a 3-part tweet. I'm going to read it to you. He published it on May 4th, 2023. Thread, 1 of 3. The UFO community is obviously susceptible to hype, but I've never seen anything like this since 2017, or maybe since metamaterials were hyped up as about to cause disclosure. That didn't happen, not yet at least. So many are claiming huge things this year. I've been told similar things, but I'd never guarantee it. Many are probably hearing this from the same places. But since so many are, there has to be something to it. Either huge things will happen this year, or a large part of the UFO community will be burned to ashes. If I had to guess, something big will happen. Will it be successful in bringing disclosure, or will it not fully work? Excuses will be made, and will the goalposts will be moved? And most importantly, will the public accept it? I want to give a big shout out to @HighPeaks77. He's a Twitter user. He put together an epic thread where he cataloged everyone making these prognostications about 2023, various people's tweets, various people's videos of them proclaiming their opinion about what's going to happen in 2023. I'm actually going to leave a link to that thread because it's historical, whether it's correct or not. And I'll just read the first part of that thread. It's a many-part thread. Number 1, thread, UAP game changer in coming months. Over the last month, we've heard from several key players about some game-changing events that could take place before the end of 2023. They seem to be about highly credible whistleblowers or officials going public on the UAP topic. That was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. There's so much going on right now in multiple different ways, various facets, all converging in this incredibly historical time, that the prognosis is quite excellent, that I will have many videos to provide you in the coming days, weeks, months, and in the remaining year of 2023 and beyond, because I think this whole thing is heating up and news stories are going to rain from the heavens and will basically be within a UAP deluge. So if you haven't yet subscribed, now would be quite an excellent time to do so, to keep you in the loop about our, in my opinion, journey into a post-disclosure world. Please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You can become a patron. You can become a YouTube member. You can give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be harnessed, accessed in the description below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.